Hello and welcome to the third episode of the NL Feast podcast, your favorite baseball podcast about your favorite division in baseball. Brandon, what a day it has been.
It has been quite a day. You know, what's the nice surprise about this day was that I ended up spending like 75% of it with you.
That's true. Honestly, we have spent so much. I don't think we've spent or talked this much since I've left Los Angeles combined, to be honest.
I don't think so. I think if you compiled all of our baseball texts from the last 4 months, it would equal the amount of time we spent today.
Yeah, so we should probably just give everybody a rundown about what they're about to listen to, because it's a little bit of a jumbled mess. Honestly, it's not a jumbled mess. It drops.
It's not jumbled.
No. You
wouldn't even know, I think. I think we just want to be honest and open with everyone.
Yes, and just kind of let everybody know. I already tweeted a picture of us from our first record this morning. Full context, this is our fourth time trying to record part of this podcast.
This is our fourth time trying to finish up. We have a 60% one done right now,
yes,
but we need to add
which
that
is what you're going to
40.
listen to, is the 60% one that you'll have a little bit going to. But yeah, so full disclosure, Brandon and I started recording initially. We had some mic trouble on your end. You're in Nashville right now. I don't know if we mentioned that with what's remaining in the podcast, but you're visiting your family in Nashville.
For my dad's birthday, yes, that's correct.
Your dad's birthday, and we're not going to mention the birthday gift, but we will mention it on next week's podcast after
next week.
Passed.
We'll talk about it.
Yes,
yeah.
and he's turning a young middle-aged age. We've also determined
an undisclosed age. I don't think he would mind, but you know what? Let's just keep it diplomatic here and just say it's a good age. I don't think he would mind, but you know what?
Yes,
it's a parent age.
Yeah, it's a parent age. More than an appropriate parent age. What else? Yeah, so we had some mic trouble on your end, getting used to that. There's some crackle and popping, so we stopped the initial record.
No snap. There was not a snap.
No snap. No serial sounds. Some snap and crackle. Fine, we'll make it all three. It was a snap and crackle and pop. And we stopped the initial record probably 15 or 20 minutes in, would you say?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember anymore. It all blurred together.
So we did one full intro, and then we were like, okay, we got to cut back on the snap, crackle, and pop. Stopped, retook the intro, went about 45 minutes probably.
Yeah, and then the snap came back. And then maybe a crackle, maybe a pop.
It's hard to say, honestly, and it turns out it had been there for the whole episode. So Brandon and I took a little breather. He had some work to do. I took a nap, watched some YouTube videos, kind of just dicked around, watched some TV. And then came back on and recorded the third full episode. Now that is, you'll hear probably the last 75% of it, I think. Is that right, Brandon?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So turns out that we, based on my bad recommendation, because the snap, crackle, and pop started again, I said, Brandon, unplug the microphone, plug it back in. It should be fine. Relying too much on my audio, clearly not expertise, my audio experience, though. And it turned out that it cut all of Brandon's record for the intro and just started back up after we had done 2 segments, I think.
Something like that. So, yeah, so we had some fun. We had some fun loose segments talking about the Conforto hit by pitch we had from the prior weekend. But you know what? I think we salvaged what we could salvage, and I think it's still pretty good.
It is good. It is good. It is 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday. I think this record would be from 5 o'clock, 5:15. When did we start recording? 4:30 East Coast time?
Yeah, we started recording. This one was about 5 p.m. Eastern time.
So Brandon made some predictions in what you're about to hear that truly became accurate and correct within 2 or 3 hours. You called, I won't spoil it, but you'll hear. And also if you watch the Marlins Braves game, you'll have a little context as to what I'm talking about. And it's allowed me to be able to watch this Marlins game. You watched your Mets win a couple, right?
Yeah. Well, the Mets won the first game of the, wait, am I ruining
the doubleheader? No, I don't think we talked, I think we just talked about the doubleheader, right?
Yeah. We talked about the doubleheader. Mets won the first one, VR walk-off, not spoiling anything. Second one's going on now, little pitcher's duel between Nola and Stroman.
You'll love it. You'll love to see it. I'm glad Stroman was able to get back out there, too, after his disappointing Sunday, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, he's as fidgety and as amped up as possible.
You love it. So the only thing was that we invented a segment called Dun Dun, where Brandon and I had to act as though we were 2 lawyers in court arguing over whether Conforto intended to stick his arm out and if it affected the game. Well, obviously it affected the game, but I guess if he stuck his arm out and if it was intentional or not. And then we were going to have the Twitter audience vote on whose argument was more successful, and the loser would have to do the hot sauce. Now, you're not going to hear any of that. I have to do the hot sauce. I have to do a shot of hot sauce. Now, you're not going to hear any of that, but you will hear that referenced, I think. And also, here's the lovely intro that I made for it.
You are about to enter the courtroom. The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is...
So if there's any reference to us stealing any Judge Judy sound effects that come on later in the show, that's what that's referring to.
You know what? What I'll say is it was a good segment. I won the segment, so I think if anything, you cut the audio and you lied to me.
Yeah, I'm just like pulling wires and cutting stuff in the back when you're not paying attention. But all right, Brandon, I think that's enough of an intro. So you're going to be jumped right into a conversation that Brandon and I were having about Jacob DeGrom and not getting the proper run support, and also a little Trevor Rogers talk, a little Josh Chisholm talk, just normal stuff. Anything else, Brandon, before we get out of here?
Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is how we live now.
This is it. All right, enjoy. I don't know. Anyways, that's really frustrating. And if you're a Mets fan, you got to just be a little worried about that. I think also we do have to remember, Brandon, not to toot my own Marlins horn, but toot, you were going against Trevor Rogers, who is the hardest throwing lefty in the game right now, at least from a starting pitching perspective.
Yeah, I mean, Rogers and Nick Neidert.
Yes.
Nick Neidert. Great mustache. But both of them were very impressive, and they were just absolutely going after hitters, unafraid of this, what looks like a stacked Mets lineup on paper.
Yeah.
Just totally unafraid, going after these guys, fucking pumping. Sorry, excuse me, I cursed. Just pumping.
You can say a little, get a little nasty.
Fastballs.
Get a little nasty. I think that's something that they emphasize in their post-game press conferences too, is intentionally attacking the zone. I know Trevor Rogers talked about how he was getting a little too, the motion was getting a little too quick. He was kind of getting a little antsy in that first inning against the Cardinals in his first start, but then he started to get his rhythm back, find out what he excelled at, and working on that, and then not being afraid to attack the zone, which I think was incredibly effective. Listen, from a Marlins perspective, it felt very sweet to see Conforto strike out 3 times in his first 3 at-bats, the game following his little wing incident.
Hey, you know what? I'll say this. I know the Marlins fans aren't happy with Conforto. Mets fans aren't either. Okay, we booed him in the last game of that series before the rainout. So we're letting them have it.
You're right there
on
with
your
us.
behalf.
Listen,
So don't worry about
I think the most solidarity that we've ever had on, not you and me specifically, obviously, this is the most we've ever gone along, Brandon, is this like weird agreement that shouldn't have happened. That was not the way. Like the Mets didn't want to win the game that way, and the Marlins obviously didn't want to lose. Like also, Anthony Bass versus Polar Bear Pete, who was in the on deck circle after that, you're probably still going to win that game. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Pete Alonso versus Anthony Bass, who I don't know how much of that Marlins Braves game you watched, but Anthony Bass was about 6 inches away from giving up a grand slam to Ozzie Albies when he came in with like,
that was on Monday night.
Yeah, that was last night. Yeah, Monday night. I like truly Adam Duvall like jumped in the air and pulled the ball down from the warning track, but like. He was so close to having like a 100.0 ERA on the beginning of the year. It was insane.
Yeah, Bass has some big Edwin Diaz energy early on in the season.
Honestly,
big Edwin
Diaz energy. But yeah, dude, it wasn't just our 2 teams that had a little trouble with the MLB replay. I mean, I think the biggest story coming out of the NL East was that Alec Baum, did he touch home plate? Did he not touch home plate? Also, this is a thing that I know I tweeted about this. You've all probably heard about my tweets, but the throw from Ozuna was a bit of a dribbler. I don't know how much you paid attention to that part of the play, but like Ozuna from left field to homer, it's just like a ground ball during the last half of the third baseline. Like that was an egregiously bad throw.
It had the direction, but it definitely was a little dribbly.
It dribbled
at the end, but Darno, absolutely fantastic job covering the plate.
For sure.
And placing his foot right where Bohm was sliding, so Bohm had to go around it, causing him to miss the plate. Great work on Darno. I know obviously the call didn't go their way, but he definitely set them up nicely to get that call. I mean, first off, great series, Phillies and Braves. Braves showed some life early on.
Yeah.
So the Braves won the series.
Yeah,
right?
the Braves won the series and would have had the sweep if it wasn't for the egregiously bad call at home.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have discussed this a little bit already, but it's really just frustrating losing that confidence you have in the MLB replay system, because it seems like when you want to rely on it the most and when you think that it'll be the most helpful, especially like this, I don't even blame the home plate umpire. Like that's a bang bang call at home. That's hard to see. Bohm's foot got so close to the plate, but very clearly didn't touch it. And then you just see them blow a great opportunity on a Sunday night ESPN game when when all of baseball at least is watching, 2 powerhouse teams going at it, and then they blow the call. It's really frustrating to watch as a baseball fan.
Yeah, it's 2 things. I mentioned this to you already, but the Mets broadcasters during the Conforto play, not to bring that up again, but they weren't even sure if that was a reviewable call. Balls and strikes are not a reviewable call, but even that there's that confusion is annoying and frustrating because we should all understand and know what is reviewable and what is not, A. And then B, the umps are taking about 5 minutes to call New York, and they still get it wrong.
I know. That's the thing. And I think I mentioned this to you previously, but like when I was watching the John Birdie replay yesterday, Birdie stole second, was called safe. Upon review, was ruled out. They confirmed on the Marlins broadcast that while they can't do it on a broadcast version of the game, that the people in New York can like synchronize 2 different camera angles, and so they can see like where they are at, like from multiple camera angles at the same time. It's like, how do you have all of that ability, all of that information, and still get the call wrong? And then it's like everybody on Twitter, every not Marlins reporter, every baseball reporter on Twitter is like, this is awful, this is not good for the game. And it's like, if everybody at home can see it, what are you seeing on the screen that we don't see?
Here's one thing that I was thinking about is obviously all of our opinions are also influenced by the broadcast booth that we're watching. So if they say like, oh, that's ridiculous,
fair.
And then we go, yeah, that is ridiculous, and then we all tweet about
Totally
it, and
fair.
it becomes kind of like this, like,
Becomes a thing.
Whole I don't know, this whole echo chamber of everyone saying, yeah, that is wrong. But it's like, I guess the people in New York are looking at unbiased. I'm not defending the umps at all. Very upset with their calls this weekend.
I can't believe Brandon's getting on here defending umpires again on the podcast.
Joe West is my best friend, and I'll say it.
Joe West, who might not believe in COVID. Did you see that stuff?
No. What is that?
Oh, dude, Joe West is about. I mean, let's save it. We have a Joe West conversation coming at the end of the podcast. A little tease for you.
Got to throw one Joe West on there.
But you got to get a little teaser. That's broadcast, baby. Yeah, dude, and you got to wonder if like these kind of games will cost the Braves the division in the long run. I know that sounds like I'm being I'm like exaggerating for drama, but truthfully, divisions have come down to 1 or 2 games before.
Absolutely,
and if the Phillies remain as hot as they have been, and the Braves are as competitive as we imagine they'll continue to be, there's a chance that in some weird world that this game actually comes back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I mean, in addition to the Mets-Marlins game with Conforto too, I mean, it's possible that those two teams are competing, and then
a little less likely for that, but the Marlins are probably not in the playoffs, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, Brandon, listen, I appreciate the sentiment. I always love the positive Marlins talk. You know that.
I was talking about the Mets. I wasn't talking about the Marlins. I mean.
The Mets aren't. You think the Mets are going to be fighting for a wild card spot? I guess you guys came out to a slow start, but I heard on a podcast or something that like the amount of baseball games that have been played so far are the equivalent of 3/4 of the first game of an NFL season. Isn't that insane?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like, that's why I try. I know you were saying that you don't want to be as negative, and I'm trying to also emulate that because there's so much season left. It's not like an NFL game where it's like, if the Bills lose to the Patriots and go, well, I guess the Bills aren't gonna win the division. You know what I mean? It's not like that. So
and like the reactionary takes that happen in football are so like, oh, game 1, Dolphins lost. I guess they're tanking for a high draft pick this season. It's like, all right, okay, hold on, let's take a breather.
Yeah, like the Nationals were terrible the first half of this. Not terrible. Yes. They were very average the first half of the season when they won in 2019. Story. So yeah. With that being said, what were we talking about? I forgot. Sorry.
We were just talking about how competitive this division will be. Okay, Brandon, I think we got to peek behind the curtain a little bit here. There's a reason why we keep saying, I already told you this. I know we talked about this. I know we agreed to not bring this up, but you and I have both said like 4 or 5 times. I know we've talked about this already, but this is the second time Brandon and I are recording this podcast. 23 listeners. This is the
third.
Okay. The third. We did 3 intros. This is the third intro, the second meat of the podcast. We've had some technical issues, some technical difficulties. Like you said, Brandon's in Nashville, so it's been a long day at the NL Feast headquarters.
Would it be a podcast if we didn't record it 3 times? You know what I mean? This is just
that's what I'm saying.
This is just the training wheels.
Part of the art form, baby. This
growing pains, if you want to quote Alan Thicke. Growing pains.
I'm constantly quoting Alan Thicke. I want to also say that this proves just how dedicated we are to our 23 listeners. We will do anything it takes to put out a podcast for you every Wednesday at 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's gonna happen this week. Does it sound like maybe Brandon and I have talked about some things more than once? Maybe a little bit. It doesn't matter. I don't think so.
I don't think anyone knows anything.
That's what I'm saying. And also now we can talk freely, Brandon. I was just feeling a little constrained here. I wanted to talk about how we may have already discussed a couple things. For example, like how good the Braves pitching has kind of looked in spite of a couple bad performances from the people that you were hoping that they were going to lean on the most. Specifically Max Fried, who had a one really bad outing, one good outing. And this is Tuesday at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll see how he performs against the Marlins tonight. But he had a bad look and then a good look. I think the I think the way to differentiate the Braves from the Phillies the most is their starting pitching. We've talked about that. Obviously, Zach Wheeler's great. Obviously, Aaron Nola's great. But when you get past that, it's a little sparse. And with the Braves, they had Ian Anderson throwing well, had a little bit of a shaky outing, but against that Phillies offense, that's going to happen to anybody. And then this Enoa guy who went up against the Marlins last night, who threw like 10 strikeouts in 6 innings, only allowed 1 homer to Adam Duvall. Like I've been very impressed with the Braves starting pitching so far.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, over the long term, I think we're going to see the Braves pitching continue to improve, especially with Soroka coming back. Obviously, that really elongates that starting rotation where it's looking pretty good top to bottom. I mean, if Drew Smyly's coming in as your 5th, Martin your 4th, that's pretty great. I know Ian Anderson, obviously, like you said, has had some struggles, but he looked decent aside from a couple bombs. Sophomore slump, his first real season. I think he'll be fine. But I mean, that looks pretty good though with Soroka, Fried, Anderson, Morton, Smyly. That's pretty stacked. And then also, you never know with the Enoa kid. But yeah, I mean, the Braves. The thing with the Braves is they're an exciting team. They're a fun team to watch. Even their bench. I was mentioning to you that Adrianza kid.
Who, he's starting tonight. You mentioned this, and then when I was scrolling Twitter in between our two records, he's starting tonight.
He was like a utility guy for the Twins, and I think he played for the Giants briefly as well. And he beat out Camargo in spring training for that backup shortstop third base role. Mostly a glove first guy, but he had some huge hits. I mean, in game 2 against the Phillies, he had a big double, and he scored that run in that botched double play between Alvarado and Gregorius. But yeah, along with that, I mean, the guy just got his citizenship on April 5th.
We love to see that.
Love to see it. Congratulations to the young man from Venezuela. I say young man, he's definitely 31. He's older than us.
The amount of times that I'm like, this kid is smashing the ball, and he's like 34 years old.
When was the first time that you were like, oh no, I'm old? Because for me, it was 2015 when Conforto came up, actually, and he was younger than me. And I was like, oh, this guy's going to the World Series, and he's younger than me.
Dude, for me, it was a lot of basketball specifically, because sometimes like some kids come into the league and they're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, especially if they're good right out of the gate. Like, it really
when you see that date of birth and it's like 2005.
Oh, dude, yeah. Or yeah, specifically like baseball prospects. Like,
yes.
Yeah, if it's like the early 2000s, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. And you and me, Brandon, we're 2 spring chickens. We're still young. We got a lot of life ahead of us.
Absolutely. We would be in the prime of our baseball careers if we played baseball.
That's okay. I know this sounds weird. I think about that. So I'm like, listen, I'm 28. If I were a basketball player or a baseball player, I would be just coming into my peak right now. I gotta bring this energy into my everyday unemployed life.
We would probably be, free agents, and we'd be signing our first big contract, I'd imagine,
That's what I'm saying. Listen,
we'd be Brandon, at Lindor time. We'd probably be getting that extension, or maybe signing I always wanted to be like a relief pitcher. Like if you're a relief pitcher who like has one good year and you can corral that into getting like a 3-year, $50 million deal, and you can suck the rest of the time and go, okay, I'm retiring now. But it's like you got $50 million and you had one good year.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. So wait, is this just like out of like laziness perspective, or like when you were growing up, what position did you want to play the most as a kid?
So I played second base and I pitched a little bit. So I pitched a little bit in Little League. And then I got in my head and I was like, oh no, I'm throwing at a human. And then I hit a couple kids and then I was like, I can't do this. But it's funny. I had one, like, it wasn't an immaculate inning, but I had one, like, I struck out the side inning and I was like, I'm pretty good at this. And then the next one I was just like, could not throw a strike because I got in my head.
That's brutal. Dude,
but I mostly played second base and I pitched.
I had like a similar situation where I was pitching. I think I just like was begging the coach to pitch, and he finally put me in. And there was my friend Christian, who was in my gym class in middle school, and I hit him in the back with a pitch and just had to like go see him at gym the next day. And like I was like being too like remorseful. I was like apologizing as he was like trotting down first baseline. I was like, I don't think this is for me. I never cried in sports, and the only time I cried in sports was when I let in like 7 runs in my one pitching outing, and I had to go to the dugout, and it was like there was enough players that they could pull me, put in another pitcher, and then I didn't just go to the field, and I just like silently wept, and my dad came over to put up his fingers up against the chain link fence. It was just like, oh dude, it was truly like
honestly that's on the
been.
Coaches though. If you give up 3-4 runs as a kid,
dude,
I mean, they should yank that kid out.
Yeah,
game.
But I played predominantly catcher. That was my
really
my
you put on the gear.
I put on the gear. I owned the gear. I don't want to brag, but was in the B All-Star team, the second tier All-Star team for the little league division that I was in. And,
junior varsity almost.
JV, whatever JV middle school All-Star game. Yeah, that was my peak of my athletic career right there.
You almost went pro is what you're saying.
I think I almost, the scouts were there, and I just told them I was more interested in playing guitar than I was playing baseball, and they saw the passion in my eyes and understood. I've been doing, let's get back to the NL East so that we don't alienate all of our 23 listeners, but I was doing this new thing as like kind of like studying for the pod, which is going on to Braves and Phillies and Nationals subreddits and reading their post game. This mainly started yesterday when I was very curious to see how the Braves fans felt about their loss to the Marlins, and it feels like the Braves are really, really worried about their bullpen. Braves fans are feeling like the chicken little sky is falling on their bullpen.
Wow.
And it was mainly, I think last night was just like the cherry on top, like the straw that broke the camel's back, where I think they walked 5 dudes in the 9th inning. And then just immediately were like, our bullpen's garbage. A little bit of Swanson hate, a little bit of Dansby Swanson hate, your favorite name in the entire division.
Oh, Dingsley Swandle.
Oh, Blangsby Bloomsping. That was a bad one. That was
Fiddler Monk.
I added
words.
B's,
I just said words.
But yeah, so it's and I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier during our first record, but I think that the comparison that becomes a little bit more interesting between the Phillies and the Braves is their bullpen, because the Phillies. I was talking to Pete, our friend that's a Braves fan on Twitter, and I was just saying that I'm not scared of Alvarado. He's thrown 101, but it's like it's cleaning the dirt off the plate for the most part, it feels like, or adding more dirt to it.
Yeah, I mean, so in regards to the Braves bullpen, obviously they were great last year, but they lost some big pieces in Shane Green, who's still a free agent for some reason. I don't understand that. And Darren O'Day, who went to the Yankees. So, and they didn't really replace those guys. And the Phillies, they did the opposite, where they sort of, what'd you say?
They still have Will Smith, the Braves. They still
have Will Smith, yeah.
And they lost Melanson. That's that guy's name, right?
Oh, Melanson. Yeah. He's on the Padres now. But in regards to the Phillies, so they started off really hot, and people are like, oh, wow, they have this revamped Phillies bullpen. But I think the stat was that the first 4 games, they let up 1 earned run. Since then, they allowed 12 earned runs. And Archie Bradley just went to the IL as well. So
Whoa. Yeah, you don't love to see that.
Yeah.
You don't love to see that.
In regards to Alvarado, I mean, super exciting pitcher to watch. Also, he got the bad rap on that play that I mentioned earlier in Game 2 of the Phillies Braves series with the botched double play, and then he had to turn around and try to throw Adrianze out at home. Yeah, that was actually Didi's fault too. Like, it wasn't a bad move to go to second to try to get the double play, but Didi was playing in on the grass and he didn't know that, so there was some miscommunication there.
Okay. That kind of happened with the Trevor Rogers Aguilar play at first base that got DeGrom a single. Just some miscommunication with the pitcher and the infielders, and that kind of happens. Well, Brandon, I think that our fans are going to be our fans. I think that our listeners, I don't think they're fans. If they're listening, they're doing us the favor. I think that
they just said they're not fans anymore. They're only listener. We're listening. We're not fans of it.
We'll get to the reviews later, our Apple Podcast reviews. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars. We will read your review, and today will prove that we will say anything you say. But I think it's time, Brandon, to get to my worst segment, your best segment, 60-second stories, baby.
Hell yeah, let's do it. You know, I kind of spoiled. What'd you say?
I said I need to come up with some sort of like intro for 60-second stories if we're going to keep using this.
Maybe, should we do like a musical thing?
Yeah.
This is
60-second stories.
60-second stories.
You know what we should do? We should get your dad to record like some intros to our show, or like some sort of like transitions for our bigger.
Oh yeah, he would do that. You would need to like add like music and shit, but yeah, he would do that.
That would be so fun. Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna write that down. We can't forget that.
Let's do it. What was I gonna say? Yeah. So 60 seconds.
Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I spoiled my story at first with the Edmonton Oilers. I got excited at the top.
It was a tease.
But I have another story that I thought of recently.
Brandon, okay, before you get into it, I haven't even got the timer up. How do you, every single week, I'm like, getting ready for the show on Tuesday, like, what am I going to possibly talk about? I don't do anything all day. I play Dungeons and Dragons on Friday or Saturday. I go to the park and throw a baseball with Chris on the weekend. I hang out with my girlfriend. Like, how do you always have stories to tell? I'm so envious.
You know what? I stay perceptive of things around me. I try to talk to a lot of people. You know, I guess I just have friends, and you have a limited network. I have a very large network, and that's what
also, I love the idea where you're like, I'm talking to people like you're Billy Eichner on the street interviewing strangers.
I do. I yell at people's face all the time in the street.
And I think you also did Timon, the voice of Timon in the live action Lion King movie, right?
Briefly, they fired me for. I can't talk about it. It's a legal matter.
We are constantly getting in trouble with legal matters, whether it's a grunge band that you saw maybe commit a crime outside of their building, or stealing the Judge Judy soundtrack. We're just constantly getting in trouble
or wrongfully using the mascot's likeness on our picture of our podcast.
We won't get sued. I think again that falls under like free play, free use. What is that called? Like where you can creatively use an image or audio.
If it's fair use.
Fair use. Okay, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Foul
use
play.
Sounds good.
I think that's what it is.
Foul play. Okay. All right, Brandon. I got the timer on the clock. I want you to go on 3, 2, 1. Begin.
So I caught on Kimmel. He did some bit on power walking, and I remembered that. So one of my first days of college at Florida State, I had an English class that I scheduled too early because I thought I could get up that early because high school, like obviously, yes. Like that's the mistake you make. Relatable. You're like, well, I got up at 7:30. I can do a class at 8, whatever. So I met a guy named Joe in there, and I met a girl named Lindsay. Lindsay, maybe we're trying to flirt a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. So I remember we were walking outside of class, just kind of getting to know each other. Joe was a professional bowler on the FSU team, a little off-putting human. So we made some joke about power walking, and he goes, "Hey, that's not funny. My mom power walks professionally."
Whoa!
And Joe was taking it seriously.
Wait, so is he competitive power walking?
I don't know. His mom does it professionally, though, and he was serious about it. I was like, all right, Joe, take it easy. And then Lindsay and I were like, this guy. And then Lindsay and I...
That's it, Brandon. Sorry. You got to stop. Okay. We can't hear about the potential...
That was it. Joe got pissed. Joe was a bad...
Do you talk to either of them still?
Where's I?
Do you talk to either of them still?
No.
Oh, okay, good. I was going to say...
I didn't talk to them by my sophomore year.
You're like, I'm in a college improv team now. Watch
what
out.
Do you guys do? You bowl?
Great story, Brandon. Wonderful story as always.
Thank you.
I emptied. I exited out of the 1 second or 1 minute timer before I did that again. All right, here we go. You ready for my story?
Let's
crack my knuckles. I'm feeling good. I don't know if our listeners remember, but last week moving the camera so Brandon can see me a little bit more. I didn't have a story and instead just kind of tossed around for 60 seconds. But this time I have a story, and here we go. So Brandon, I recently purchased a bicycle before I realized I was going to lose my cell phone and have to pay $1,000 for a new one. I purchased a bicycle from a man, literally just like on the street slinging bikes out of his basement. It was like one of the most New York City things I've ever done. My roommate, Austin, Austin, he just told me that he bought a guy from his bike guy. He said, here's my bike guy, go pick up a bike. Long story short, I saw a bike. I fell in love with it. I've been trying to find excuses to bike around the city because my girlfriend Miranda doesn't have a bike, so there's very few moments where we're going out to... I'm running out of time. I gotta just go to it. So I bike to get my hair cut. This is the second haircut I've gotten in all of quarantine for the most part. I don't think I told you this, but I straight up buzzed my hair like 6 months ago. Just like full 2 all around. Didn't look great, but I went to go get my hair cut, and this guy's cutting my hair. We're just trying to casually talk and like find something in common. And I just always have this moment where I'm getting my hair cut and I have to agree with whatever the guy says. And he's like, hey, I think the worst part about quarantine is not being able to go to the gun range though. And I was like, yes, totally agree. Okay, sorry, I ran out of time.
And you're not a gun guy at all. I know I'm not a gun guy either.
No. And I mean, we've already peeked behind the curtain. We both now know that we've only shot guns once in our entire lives, and it was not an enjoyable experience for either of us.
Yeah, no, I did the clay pigeon thing right before quarantine with some like Southern, I don't know, they might listen to this. No, they're just like more like Southern boys in Florida, you know?
Hey, listen, there's nothing wrong. Yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, honey.
Honestly, we would be, hey, honey, ain't nothing wrong. We'd be shooting ourselves in the foot if we were pissing on Southern people on a baseball podcast that's specifically about the East Coast.
Hey, we love the Braves, baby. All right, come on, let's shoot some clay pigeons.
Let's shoot some pigeons down at the hole.
Hey, they shoot come out of that hole and they're clay and they're in the air and you gotta shoot them. It's a lot of steps. All right.
Come on, just put it out there. You weren't good at it though. I'm assuming.
I didn't get one. Like it was at the end where they're like, "All right, you got to get one today," and I never did. I never hit one, and they were like, "Come on," and it was. You know what? I'm not gonna do it again. But there was a normal gun range right next to where that course was.
Okay.
If you don't know, like the clay pigeons is sort of like a golf course. We go to different holes or whatever. And they do the actual gun range close by. So you just heard like bang, 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 like behind, like next to it. And it was freaky and I hated it. Scary. And it was just too much power for just no one I trust. Thing.
I don't want to hold a gun, anything that's capable of murdering people. Like, I already freaked myself out. Like, when I got my COVID first vaccine, I'm like, needle. I don't even want to look at this. Like, anything that like has any sort of like symbolism for danger, I want nothing to do. And just like holding a gun, I like the only time I've ever shot guns, I shot a handgun. Well, I shot like a couple rifles and then a handgun, and like the mobility and like the speed in which you could shoot, I was just like, this is a dangerous thing. I want nothing to do with this. So I'm glad you and I are on the same terms. Our listeners don't have to worry about us shooting guns or doing anything crazy. That kind of had some sort of that was not trying to implicate Brandon and I in any future crimes. That was not what I was alluding to at all.
Hey, if you find out there's a story where they're like two guys that do a baseball podcast killed someone, it can't be us. We don't like guns.
No, we don't like guns. The two people that host NLPs would never commit crimes. I just want to put that officially on the
never, unless it's like legal ones like stealing music or images.
Yes, any sort of like copyright infringement we may actually be guilty of. Brandon, we have a few actually really good, interesting series coming up in the NL East too. So let's get rolling on those. We have the Marlins versus the Braves and the Giants first. The Marlins have already completed their first game of what I believe is a 4-game series against the Braves, winning in extra innings, 5-3, I think was the final score. Sandy Alcantara got the no decision. And that Enoa guy who looked really good. Also, I guess he technically got the loss. I don't know what the final score was. A loss or no decision. But yeah, dude, I'm really excited to see how we compete. If we can hold the Braves' feet to the fire of our series, it's going to be really bad for Braves fans and really promising for Marlins fans.
Yeah, I mean, the Braves, obviously, they were looking hot after they got swept by the Phillies in the first series. They're coming out hot. Last few games, they're looking a little... they weren't looking rusty. They just had some bad luck, it seems like, right? And some bullpen woes. So, we'll see. I mean, obviously, it'll be a big win in your part if the Fish can pull a few games out against this Braves series. But yeah, interesting games this coming week. Obviously, they're getting out of the interdivision battles after the first half of this week. So
that's what it seems like. Next weekend will be a lot of just strange matchups that we weren't anticipating.
Yeah, West Coast and Central. So that means we got to watch more games, and that's okay. We all right?
We're not
that?
Mad about it. Okay. Kind of just like again, we're just truly pulling the curtain back today. How has it been having to watch a lot more or feeling an obligation to watch more baseball games than you have previously? Because before I was just like, I'll watch most Marlins games I can catch. Now I'm like, I got free MLB TV with my T-Mobile. I'm watching any NL East matchup. It's either like in the background or I'm like trying to pay attention to it. It's almost like exhausting is a strong word, but it has been a lot more of a responsibility than I was anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, I think before, like maybe if you saw it was a tight game, you'd put it on. So maybe in the bomb game, be like, oh, it's 6-6. Like let's put the game on and check it out. So yeah, but I mean, you know what? I don't hate it because I love baseball, and you grow to know a lot of these players. Obviously, like I said, the Braves, we love everyone except Dinglesby Swanson. So we love everyone in the Braves. Bonson. Yeah.
Barnaby's a good fake one. What? I said Barnaby's a good fake one.
You said Barnaby? Was that the first one?
Barnaby Blonson.
Barnaby Blonson. Oh, hello there. Shortstop for the Atlanta Braves.
Ooh, / Hobbit returning the ring to Mordor.
That's the best one. I think that one wins.
Barnaby Blonson. All right, put that in. Let's get a tattoo.
New segment. It's what's the best alternative name to Dansby Swanson? And we have to both come up with one.
So... Yes. Also, that would be a fun thing for anybody who wants to review the podcast. Put in your favorite alternative name for Dansby Swanson in the review, and we will read it on the air because we're going to literally read everything. Brandon, we have some very wild reviews that we'll get to after we talk about these upcoming series. But I think another interesting one that we have going on is the Mets versus the Phillies. I think that's going on right now.
Right now, as we record, they have the moronic 7-inning doubleheader going on because of the rainout yesterday. Moronic. So, and actually, as we speak, it looks like there's a play under review. I have it on in the background right now, so that will go in the wrong direction probably. It looks like it's if Roman Quinn offered up at a offered a bunt at a pitch that went in the dirt. So I guess that's what they're calling. I don't know they could do that because isn't that a ball strike call? Who knows? That's what I'm saying. We don't know.
We don't have any idea.
Review it.
And neither do the umpires.
What'd you say?
And I said, we don't have any idea, neither do the umpires.
Oh, it's Joe West too.
No way. Okay, all right. Do you want to get into the Joe West story real fast?
Yeah, let's get into Joe West. What's the COVID thing? And then I'll talk LaDuca.
Okay, so this is something that started to come up last season, obviously, because COVID was the only thing being asked about these players. But I know Joe West went on the record and was talking about how he doesn't think COVID is as big of a deal. Yeah, here's a Chicago Tribune headline. I don't know if I'll have access to it, but umpire Joe West's skepticism about the COVID-19 death count puts his judgment under fire before the NFL or MLB season even begins. I mean, in Joe West's defense, he's 67 years old, and with any like white 67-year-old baseball fan that's a man, it's very questionable any of your politics. I think nobody would be surprised if you were denying COVID deaths. But I'm also pretty sure he is a outspoken Trump supporter. Yeah, this is an look. Okay, this is Hank's quote. I know West for a while and always enjoyed listening to him, whether we agreed or not. His act has been somewhat muted in the age of video replay, in which he no longer gets to argue with managers about calls on the field. And then they said they don't think it matters about his politics. But honestly, very rarely am I on the side of Joe West. And you'll tell us right now, I think I'm kind of on the side of Joe West here.
You're talking LaDuca?
I'm talking LaDuca, baby.
So Paul LaDuca, former veteran catcher of the Marlins and Mets amongst, what was the other team he was on?
I couldn't tell you.
Marlins and Mets, most notably. But Paul LaDuca, so Joe West filed a defamation suit against Paul LaDuca for $500,000 because apparently Paul LaDuca said in his book that Billy Wagner told him to set up more inside during a game when they were the battery for the Mets, and LaDuca goes like, "Why? How? That's Joe West. He's not gonna give you a freebie." And Wagner says, "Go ahead." And he said it's because Joe West likes driving old cars, and when he's in town, Billy Wagner lets him drive his '57 Corvette, I think it was.
Yeah, and he was like lending him out his car in exchange for favorable calls.
Exactly, and then I think they said that there was an inning where he struck out the side, and right after that. So afterwards, I guess they did an investigation, and they found out that there was never an inning where Wagner struck out the side when Joe West was umpiring and Paul LaDuca was catching. In addition to that, Paul LaDuca said that it's Joe West. He threw me out of games 8 times. Also not true. So Joe West clearly won the case, and Paul LaDuca, I guess, owes him $500,000. Joe West is kind of living the life right now because also in 30 games, he's going to umpire the most games of any other umpire ever in the history at the end of May, assuming no rain delays and all that. Yeah. So Joe West, living the life right now, getting paychecks from former
donating to the Trump
catchers.
Campaign, no problem. Cutting big checks for Donald Trump Jr.'s inevitable presidential run. My favorite part about that story was he was allotted $250,000 for like emotional distress or whatever, and then the additional $250,000 was so that he could develop a public relations campaign to revitalize his name and win back the value. I know, isn't that insane?
The Joe West PR campaign for the ages.
I know. I'm so excited to see what that takes. But I guess what they were arguing was that he was going to have a chance of losing out on being inducted into the Hall of Fame if there was any sort of like evidence that a foul play, and he was relying on like speaking fees and public appearances in the future that you can make, and like the value is much higher if you are a Hall of Fame member.
Dude, who's hiring Joe? Like, honestly, I applaud him for his years of service, but it's like, who's hiring for a speaking engagement? Joe West?
Joe West, come to my birthday party. I'll pay you $10,000.
My birthday clown is Joe West, talking about his 40 years in the majors.
He's full of a lot of good stories. Brandon, I think we're kind of getting close to the hour. I don't know. How's it feeling on your end?
Yeah,
what do we got left to talk about? Do you want to do Feast or Famine?
Let's do it, baby.
Okay. All right. So my feast this week is Trevor Rogers. I know we talked about this a little bit, but Trevor Rogers, Marlins like top 10 pitching prospect, only left-hander in the starting rotation, and has had to take up a bigger responsibility since Sixto and Alicia Hernandez have been sidelined by injuries. And he came out, battled Jacob DeGrom last Saturday. Mm-hmm. And through 6 innings, no earned runs, I think 10 strikeouts. Michael Conforto got him 3 times. And it's just a big relief whenever our prospects do well. Now, mind you, it would be nice if some of our hitting and outfield prospects would show the same positive upward trend that our pitching prospects are showing. But you got to be elated as a Marlins fan. Trevor Rogers just really could potentially be our fourth best arm. I mean, we still have a bunch of other prospects coming up, Max Myers and Edward Cabrera specifically for pitchers. But as a lefty, he's looking good. He's attacking the strike zone, and he's my feast this week. I know we always try to kind of avoid our favorite team as our feast or famine, but you got to talk about him this time.
I like that. I endorse that. He was exciting to watch, honestly. I mean, albeit a frustrating game for Mets fans, he impressed for sure, and it's always good to have a lefty. I mean, honestly, if you're a successful lefty, you're going to be in the rotation, so I love it.
Yeah. All right, what's your feast?
So my feast is an Marcell Ozuna breakout week. I know he's been scuffling a bit. He's looking a little shoddy in left field, as we said that he would, but you know what? Brian Snicker actually mentioned, he said, this is the guy that I think is going to break out next for us. The Braves are hitting, Albies, Acuna, they're all hitting. They're exciting to watch, but I do think Ozuna's breakout week is coming. He won a Silver Slugger last year. Come on. Give the guy a break. He can still mash, even though he's not great out in left field. I'm going to say Ozuna maybe gets a couple dingers this week under his belt.
I like that. I like that call. Let's move on to our famines, too. And, Brandon, I'm just sick of all of these game cancellations. That's my famine of the week.
Oh, God.
Like, we had a rain out on Sunday. You had a rain out on Monday. We have we've had a lot of COVID cancellations in the NL East. The Nationals just ruined a lot of stuff, and it's just we were very excited for a 162 game season, some sort of return to normal. Brandon, this is the new normal, baby.
Is this the new normal? Is it unprecedented? Would you say?
I think this is uncharted waters. I think this is the new normal.
Oh wow! How will we return to normalcy?
It's going to be so hard getting back to everyday life, Brandon. Can you imagine?
I'm going to have, PTSD going to, a party or something.
I can't wait to go back to parties and not talk to anybody, am I right?
I'm going to go home and start watching Netflix again and ordering pizza.
But yeah, I think we're just incredibly sick of these game cancellations. I just want baseball to be played, baby. And I know that the Marlins haven't really had a lot of impact other than that Sunday game getting rained out, which shouldn't have happened. I mean, I don't even think I need to say this. People can probably guess that we are both in support of Marcus Stroman's comments about the game cancellation. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just a frustrating part of the baseball season so far.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets have played 5 of 12 games, I think.
Oh my God!
Or 5 of 10 games in the first 12 games of the season. So,
and it's also
extremely
weird when
stressful.
you look at the standings too, and you're like, I don't really know how to decipher this because no team has played the same amount of games so far.
Right. It's like you're 2 games back if you played 4 less games than the first place game. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little freaky, and it sucks because of these doubleheaders. They're going to have to do these 7-inning doubleheaders as we see the first one tonight between the Mets and Phillies. But my famine for this week is young David Peterson, the lefty on the Mets. The Trevor Rogers of our team. Maybe not as highly touted, but Peterson, who had a great year last year, struggled. He was the one starting pitcher that struggled in his first start of the season. I'm going to say that his struggles might continue, and unfortunately, I think he's going to get the axe when Carrasco or Noah Syndergaard come back from injury. So,
think you're going to send him back down?
Yeah, I think he probably will, because they have Lucchesi in the bullpens as the lefty. So I think Peterson, might struggle through his few starts. I hope he doesn't, obviously, as a Mets fan. But if you look at his stats from last year, his, not to get all analytical, but his xFIP and FIP are kind of high, meaning that his fielding independent pitching.
Yes.
If he didn't get some lucky outs out there, his ERA wouldn't be looking too good. So
we're back to loving math on this podcast, Brandon. We're math fans.
We love math if it justifies David Peterson being bad. No, I love Peterson, and I think he's great. And there's a great story on him on The Athletic and his family's background in horse racing. Super interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting guy. I'm a big fan of him, and I hope he succeeds in the majors. But I do think he might be struggling a little bit longer.
You hate to see it. Brandon, it's time to move along to our final segment, our reoccurring final segment, where we read our 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. First off, thank you so much to anybody that's done that. Let's be earnest for a second, but I know Brandon and I are very appreciative of all the support we've gotten from our friends.
Absolutely,
and our family.
thank you. But if we have any 1-star reviews, we'd also love to read those, because that's interesting to me.
Brandon, don't encourage that. Our first review comes from, now I'm starting to see a reoccurring trend here, Brandon. We have a lot of Major League Baseball players reviewing our podcast. The only 2 so far have been out of division. It says Zach Greinke wrote a review for us.
Wow. Well, you know what? They eat, sleep, and drink baseball. So you know what? I'm not surprised that they're looking for the next big thing in baseball podcasts.
They want to listen to the 112th highest rated baseball podcast on Apple charts.
111th this week. Make it happen, people.
Let's go. Let's bump it up. Zach Greinke with a simple 5-star 5-star review. He says, "This rules." And honestly, Granky, we appreciate those kind words.
Hey, thanks, Grank. I know you had a tough game yesterday. You threw a 51-mile-per-hour pitch, by the way.
I saw that, dude. That was nuts.
Love that guy. He's operating in his own wavelength, so if there's one player that would listen to the podcast, it's Mr. Granky.
That's true. And honestly, Mr. Cranky, if you're listening, we would love to have you on. We're big fans of yours. Also, I just saw Teoscar Hernandez has COVID. I just got a push notification.
Oh, whoa.
That Blue Jays outfielder tested positive. All right. Now, our next review, another 5-star, comes from made-up name 987654321. So hard to tell who that's from. And they said, funny and informative. Had a ball listening. More like a home fun.
Ooh.
Which, I know. We love puns on the podcast. We're big fans of all those words.
Wow. That's, you know what? That gets, that does not get a Zach Eflin.
The Zach Eflin was on the last podcast. It was not on this recording, I think. No, that was a great bit. We did have a bunch of great bits. That's just content
we did
that's
on
never
this
going
one
to see the
too.
light of day. Hey, you know what? I feel like once we opened up the curtain, admitted to the audience that we had been in, this is our third time around, it kind of let us shake a little bit of the rust off. And get back
we're
to
the
normal.
man behind the curtain, right?
Anyways, so the next review comes from Zach Verb, who I do believe Zach Verbit, a good friend of ours and also a member of our fantasy baseball league. Jesus, what is going on with me? He says, very good podcast, but 5 stars, very good podcast, but I wish these two hunks would talk more about their sex lives.
Hey, you know what? It's hard for us to do that because we're on opposite coasts, so it's not very active for either of us right now. I'm sorry.
It's difficult for us. I will just ask Brandon.
No, you've gone too far. We're not raunchy.
Don't worry.
Here.
I'm gonna put a big bleep on that word, and nobody will know what I said.
Hey.
This is weird. I am seeing a reoccurring theme here in our reviews. This is from Sex God 99.
That's probably Zach Greinke's other handle, I think.
Definitely. I'm confident in Zach Greinke's sexual prowess. It says, good podcast. First time I ever got a boner thinking about baseball. So thank you for all the reviews that we're getting. All positive. We appreciate them.
Whoa. We should bleep that out too.
I wonder if I can add beeps. We'll make it happen if I can't. Also, if you're listening to this, we don't know now, but you already know because you might have heard a beep already. Or you just didn't hear what we're talking about. It's hard to say. All right, Brandon. This was a wonderful third record of the podcast. Both of our entire days have almost been dedicated to recording this episode, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way, buddy.
Hey, me neither. It's our third time recording our third podcast, and you know what? I give it 3 stars out of 3.
Yeah, it's 3 stars out of 3. Brandon, do you think that this is going to continue? Like for our 4th episode, we're going to have to record it 4 times, 5th episode 5 times, just so on and so forth?
That means I would have to start asking if we died and went to hell, if that's...
it's like Palm Springs, but about baseball podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful job as always, Brandon. Really, really impressed with your informative takes. Good.
Hey,
good
thank you.
takes.
You as well. You know, I love your hosting. I love your informative takes. And you know what? Have a great baseball week. We'll be in touch.
We need a sign off. Should that be, have a great baseball week. We'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch. I like
Bye.
That. Bye.
Also, in this incredibly hectic episode, Brandon and I realized we forgot to plug. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at NLFeast, all one word. Follow Brandon at Brando Grosso. BrandOGROSSO, and follow me at Slim Pro TV. Thanks. Bye.